So looking at it from a completely impartial place, I have not heard or seen one piece of evidence, not even one. I have not heard or seen one piece of evidence thus far that anywhere, in any way, in any shape whatsoever, says or shows that Trump did some treasonous act or some type of high crime or misdemeanor that is impeachable.
Well, let's get into it. So first today, and this is why I got off topic, because we were talking about colonels and colonels. So it's Lieutenant Colonel Vindman. He was the first person he started talking this today at around just after 8 a.m. On Capitol Hill, and he was saying that Ukraine is a bulwark against Russian aggression. Zelensky's election opened the door for strategic opportunities advantageous to American interests. Well, why is that treasonous or bad? I don't understand. Is there any indication in the transcripts that Zelensky was prepped, in quotes, for the phone call? In other words, can we see anything that implies he was ready to talk about Burisma? What they referred to, and I have to give you the hilarious quote. And by the way, again, we have to remind people all the time, we're not a pro-Trump pair, but we're just anti-far leftist, and we're against what's going on right now.
Well,
from the left direction.
I'm just, if you want to use the term truther, I just want the truth. I just want to know what happened. If Trump did something bad, okay. If he didn't do anything bad, then fuck off.
Right, exactly.
Same thing with anybody else.
Well, what they say is, this is Zelensky towards the end of the transcript, which, by the way, as we mentioned last time, available online. People read it. It's only, it's how many pages? It's 5 pages long.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it wasn't a very long phone call.
No.
And we both read it. And even more so, I mean, I think that to watch these hearings and to have not read the transcript, I mean, get the hell out of here. You're an idiot. You gotta be informed. So especially when you know almost word for word, except for a few redacted things, when you know word for word what was said on a phone call, that's the primary source of information. That's the origin. It all leads back to that. So you can, I mean, that's a fact. That's what you call a fact. An original source of information is a fact. So if you have a fact here, like I have this water bottle. This is a water bottle. That's a fact. Right. Now, 20 different people can interpret this water bottle a different way. You can say, oh, it's poisonous because it's got BH whatever's in it that leaches into the water. Someone else can say, oh, bottled water is great because it hasn't been treated. It doesn't have lead poisoning from pipes. Somebody else can say, yeah, but the plastic is bad for landfills. Somebody else can say, oh, it's great because that water doesn't have any fluoride added to it. And you can go back and forth. But the fact is, it's a water bottle with water in it.
Right.
So it's the same thing. When you read that phone call transcript, you see exactly what was said. And I mean, it's not hard to follow.
It's Trump.
But Trump
speaking with a guy whose English is his second language. It's like two toddlers talking.
Yeah, I mean, Trump definitely is not the most well-spoken guy. I mean,
Zelensky actually seems to be more articulate.
He really does. I mean,
he just recently learned English.
And I don't know. And it's funny because seeing Trump in a previous life when he would do his television shows
when he was
or whatever,
younger,
he was very, I don't want to say articulate, but he was much more well-spoken. So
yes.
I think maybe some of that has to do with the fact that he knows he's the president, he's on the hot seat, and every word has to be perfect.
But that happens to people, particularly men, when they get to a certain age.
Sure.
And
so,
it doesn't affect their competency.
No, it doesn't. But he might be unnaturally speaking because he knows that the press is waiting for just one bad combination of 3 words in a row that could be like they can run with to make him look bad. So when you always have that on your mind, obviously you're going to speak a little differently than you probably normally would. But reading the transcript and parsing through, Trump's use of words and things, when you get done reading it, you're like, okay, I read the phone call. What's bad about this phone call?
Yes.
I still, personally, I don't have a problem with Donald Trump or any president or any police organization, the FBI, the CIA, or anybody asking questions about Joe Biden and what he did, because to the average person, you're either lying to yourself or you're trying to stick up for your teammate because you're a good liberal Democrat or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, nobody in society, nobody in your family, anybody listening to us right now, nobody in your family is getting some job that pays $80,000 a month when you have absolutely no experience in that industry. It's a foreign country on the other side of the ocean. I mean, come on.
What the fuck did he do every day when he went there? I mean, I'm sure there were people there who were like, the other guys are like, oh God, we got to take.
Yeah, but
this
when
guy's
you're on a
loser
board,
son, like,
when you're on a board, you don't have to be there every day. I mean, you don't even have to go to the meetings. I mean, and there's no evidence or whatever of how much time he actually spent at this company, or if he actually went there regularly, or I mean, now, I mean, you just get on Skype, right? Or you get on video conferencing for the hour or 2 hour, board meeting and be done with it. But, I mean, come on. Your dad's the vice president. Your dad is the lead for that country. He is the head that's handling all, Ukrainian interactions with the U.S. government. And your kid gets this cake-ass dream job on this corrupt oil, natural resources company.
Right?
Yeah. So it's crap. And this is where Democrats fuck themselves, because if they would just be honest and be like, okay, you know what? Yeah, we have a problem with what Joe Biden did. So sorry, Joe, but I mean, it came out now. We can't cover for you anymore. If the Democrats would just concede or be honest, that would give them so much more credibility that when they argue about other issues, they wouldn't just be looked at as, witch hunters after Trump.
right, or the boy who cried wolf.
Or the for the
times.
100th time.
Right.
But getting back to the
Colonel
hearings.
Colonel Vindman, he was the one who was talking about, he said one thing that was crazy. Consensus of the entire intelligence community is that Russia interfered with the election. But you can just go online and look up the Mueller probe.
Supposed original source of information, the Mueller probe, spent millions and millions and millions of dollars with people's man hours and stuff, and then when finally the report is released, what does it say? It's inconclusive.
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
I'm sorry, folks, if it's inconclusive, it's just like, if you get arrested for a crime, or if you get arrested for, a driving infraction, and the state or the city or the policeman can't prove their case, and it's inconclusive, then innocence falls on your side.
Right.
And you're acquitted, and
Yes.
that's what it is. In America...
Well, that's what those are the principles of that your Constitution is founded upon.
Absolutely. You are innocent until proven guilty. I mean...
And the burden of truth lies on the investigator. So today, which is really a miscarriage of justice, when we were watching Ambassador Volker to Ukraine, who I did learn that it's pronounced Kyiv, not Kiev, thanks to him. Today.
Yes,
that's
Kyiv.
one good thing he contributed to
I
the
know,
universe
chicken
today.
Kyiv, not chicken Kiev.
Yeah, anybody who's ever said Kiev is a Philistine and should be shot. So basically, he was doing something goofy today where he said, well, the burden of proof, I'm paraphrasing somewhat, but the burden of proof is on Trump to prove that there was no quid pro quo, which is a really interesting word. They have many shows where people take the camera into a crowd and ask them basic questions. And people are baffled at how stupid the general population is.
Yeah.
Basically, quid pro quo is something that I think a lot of people who are anti-Trump will use that term. And if you really cornered them, said, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What it actually is, I scratch your back, you scratch my back. A favor or advantage granted or expected in return for something.
Yeah.
All right? Doesn't that sound like what Trump is actually trying to find out about Joe Biden?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, okay? Just because, this is a big concept for people here for some reason, but just because Joe Biden is one of the candidates running for president on the Democratic side, he's not the candidate. They're still in their primaries. We're not going to have a definitive Democrat candidate until after the convention, early next year or over the summer next year. So until then, there is no set Democrat, a candidate
or
against Trump or opponent.
Yeah.
So yes, he's been in the lead, then he's fallen out of the lead, then he's gained some more ground, then he's fallen out. So yeah, he's one of the front runners. But he's not like the definitive guy that Trump has to be. Mm-hmm. It could be Bernie Sanders. Hell, it could be somebody that's not even running yet, that comes from somewhere else. Bloomberg just was going to get in the race. Mm-hmm. Maybe he still will. Maybe he'll just come right in and be the front runner automatically. We don't know that.
What's goofy about that, though, that I don't understand is if they come in late to the Democratic election, why aren't people holding them accountable for the fact that they never did any of the debates up till now?
Yeah, but it's smart strategy, actually. I mean,
well, that's what I would do. I would wait till they're all over.
Absolutely. Why not let all the weaker candidates beat each other up and get all the dirt out and cannibalize each other? Then you'll step in. Because until a certain date and time, anybody that's over the age of 35 years old in America can run for president. So, there's talk that independent former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura might get into the race after that whole process is over.
He'd have a good chance of beating him.
He would. A lot of people would have a good chance if they brought forward good candidates. The reason Hillary Clinton didn't win is because she wasn't a good candidate. Somebody else stronger probably could have beat Trump, but that's not what happened. But where we're at now, as I started to say, just because Joe Biden happens to be a candidate for president doesn't absolve him from things that he may have done wrong when he was the vice president. Just like they're saying, well, it doesn't absolve Trump for things he did. I mean, they're trying to hold Trump accountable for things he did in his personal life before he was ever even thinking about running for president. When he was a private citizen, they tried to hold him accountable for things he said or prior business deals with some of his tenants and buildings and things.
Right.
Whereas with Biden, he was a freaking sitting vice president. And here his son is in I don't want to say compromising position, but a very sketchy position.
Right.
I mean, and see, regular people recognize this.
Right.
So the fact that Trump, as the president, totally within his authority to do, whether he loves Joe Biden, hates Joe Biden, is running against Joe Biden drops out of the race, all of those things are irrelevant.
Right.
The president, yeah, especially when it has come to light, and Trump knows, and the country now knows, that the only collusion that was done with Russia was with the DNC. The DNC,
Ukraine.
Yeah, Ukraine and the DNC colluded with Ukrainians, because a lot of people in that area of the world are computer whizzes. Mm-hmm. They're really good at programming. A lot of them are behind a lot of the, computer scams that go on, credit card fraud and stuff. It usually originates from that part of the world or China, because these people are just really, really good at computer programming and hacking and stuff. So when it comes out that you find out when you were actually running for president, not only was your own CIA and FBI investigating you, former President Barack Obama was helping in that investigation to try and intervene and derail you from becoming president, which, hello, that's interfering with the U.S. election.
Right.
From being in the U.S. soil. That's our own intelligence agencies and former president interfering in a U.S. election.
Right.
So now you're going to bitch that this man sitting in the office, who knows full well that this happened, knows who a lot of the players are, you don't think that he's within his right as the leader of the country to get to the bottom of the corruption? One of the things he ran on as president was, I'm going to clean and drain the swamp. So, sorry, guess what? Biden wouldn't have nothing to worry about if he didn't do anything wrong, and if his son wasn't in some type of sketchy relationship. And like we talked about on the show before, the reason I think that they have to protect Joe Biden is because so many of them at that level do the exact same thing and are complicit. We already know Nancy Pelosi's son was in the exact same similar thing.
Hillary Clinton's brothers.
Hillary Clinton's brothers
were given good corporate deals.
Other ambassadors. Everybody. It seems like everybody in the Washington establishment is like raping and pillaging and getting rich off of doing business in the Ukraine or with the Ukraine.
Or any, not just Ukraine.
No, not just Ukraine.
Ukraine is a country ripe for corruption. And
absolutely.
It always has been.
So if Biden gets outed, then who else is going to be outed? Well, Pelosi doesn't want to be outed. Mm-hmm. Nobody else wants to be outed. Right. So they almost have to protect Biden at all costs, because what the American people don't realize is how deep and rampant this type of, you can call it soft corruption, whatever you want to call it. It's become like usual business for these people. These people, like, again, we talked about this before. If we could spend the time and hire some type of research firm to basically take every member of the Congress and the Senate and do like a 4 or 5 layer deep family tree, sons, daughters, cousins, nephews, relatives, next door neighbors, things like that, former business associates and partners, and do like a family tree, and then find out where all those people work and how they got their job and what kind of salary they're making. And I bet the American public would probably shit themselves if they saw how rampant it is. I would be willing to bet that more than half, 60, 70% of the people in Washington, in the Congress and Senate, somewhere are using their influence to help somebody in their family or whatever in a way that they probably wouldn't be helped if that person didn't have their position.
And Donald Trump, as we mentioned many times here, would never have needed to do that, because the reason that, so say if he had one of his kids got a job like that overseas, it wouldn't have been through political power. It would have been through his own power that he has from his wealth and the friends that he's made overseas. To that doesn't make it any better, but it makes it fully legal in a way that the real quid pro quo that we need to be talking about is this scandalous phenomenon of politicians giving their kids these positions through sweetheart deals.
Yeah.
And you scratch my back, I scratch your back.